Hello, everybody. Glad that I was able to try and finish this project. Um, my presentation is on assessments of oral language and literacy development, and I will be presenting Chapter 4, The Bridge to Linguistic Equity. I found this chapter to be really interesting, talking about language and different languages and how we can incorporate this into ELL students. So, what is language and how do we use it? We currently have 6,500 languages in the world. Language is a human phenomenon, right? Um, it's amazing when we hear different languages and then we turn around and somebody's answering because they understand it. People interact through gestures, signs, sounds, and symbols to communicate. Um, when it talks about symbols, I'm presuming it's talking about possibly sign language or signs, gestures. Some of us talk with our hands, expressions. So in this chapter, we investigate how language unfolds. Assessments must also match practices between students and their teachers. So we need to make sure that when we are assessing language, we have a rubric or we have our assessment format, have clear expectations on what it is that we're going to be teaching. So this is a quote from Carmen Camila Padilla, and it says, the major language right we pose is the right to learn and use our own language, but this right is often forgotten. So I have seen some children out, let's say, ordering at McDonald's, and the parents will tell them in Spanish, tell them that this is the one I want. And the child is like, no, they're they're shy or they might even be embarrassed that their parents are not speaking the language. But I think, and I'm pretty sure I did this growing up too, because my mother used to have us order stuff for her, and it wasn't. I'm not sure if it was embarrassment or if I was just being shy. But now reading this, it I feel that I should take pride that I'm a bilingual learner and that I'm able to speak English and Spanish. So, this next slide is going to talk to us about getting ready for standards and reference assessments. Students from all backgrounds are more engaged when classroom work is cognitively challenging. Take time and reflect. So, what does this mean to you? To me, this means that whatever I'm teaching should be age appropriate. All students, regardless of social or ethnic backgrounds, achieve at higher levels when they participate in an intellectual challenging curriculum. Equity graphs diminishes as a result of engagements in such curricula. If you look at the chart on the right, you will see the multifaceted aspects of language development. They are also shaped by social cultural context. If you look, it says that we should be, first of all, multi literacies. We should also be listening, doing oral language, speaking, reading, in order for them to, by them speaking and hearing it and listening, this will make it where their writing will just bloom. So, how does this relate? It's significant research findings that speak to the relationship between the equity of cognitive engagement in tasks and students' academic achievement, as shown in the interconnecting circles. And you can find this in your book as well. So language proficiency assessments or language. I want to take a look at language development and interactions at school. So let's look at language development first. The nature of listening comprehension. So most likely it's in two languages, recognizing minimal pairs such as, so for example, in English, when you hear if they're talking fast, a Spanish speaker might not understand the difference between a chip and a ship. Or same thing if they're writing it down, they might want to say potato chip, but they write ship because of the it just looks too much alike. Pat, like I'm gonna pat you, or a pet in Spanish is the exact same thing. Mesa and masa. One is a table and one is dough to make tortillas. Or cama and quema. One is a bed and the other one is saying burnt. So, in order for us to promote classroom discourse and cooperative activities, we need to talk to each other, take turns speaking, and engage cooperative activities to expand learning. And we can do this together. You can find more information on page 95. So, as an ELL student, when you are having interactions in school, and we are working on instructional assessments of listening comprehension, teachers and peers are the primary language model. So, for example, um, we should use recordings like this. It's also known as a tape, face to face interactions. That would be ideal, but due to circumstances at this time, we have to rely on social media. We also have paraprofessionals. We also call them paraeducators that come in and work with our students, relying on other students and their conversations, watching their interactions. Not all assessments need to be one on one. We can also do observations. Think of a reason why you may wish to choose multiple purpose for assessing listening. Listening. Sorry about that. A discrete point diagnostic tool may be appropriate. For example, if you detect that a student has an articulation issue not related to language development, you might want to process this or benefit from the service of a speech and language pathologist. And we see that page 98, figure 4.1, has more information about this. I would also recommend that as we're going through this lesson, you have your book out and you can pause this video at any time and highlight what might be of interest or importance to you. So, documenting instructional assessments of listening. There are also several ways of recording students' progress at the classroom level, and this may include anecdotal evidence from classroom interactions. So, this is taking anecdotal notes, checklists based on performance indicators or descriptions for listening. I personally like to use tallies of students' performance based on oral input. If I hear them pronunciate a word, um, I write the word down and then I like to tally how many times they used it, whether it be 5 to a half an hour period, standard reference rating scales. Take a look at page 99. You will find some more samples and indicators for listening. And page 100, there's also a checklist of assessments when we're listening across four core content areas. And as you go on your book, page 101 has a really nice rubric that I recommend you guys look at. Um, We always want to find a niche, right? When we're working with our students, what works? So phrases students may use in contact area of language arts includes the following. I see. The title tells me that. The bold print is important because so these, if you look at this picture, I found it really interesting that the teacher is engaged and has her book, um, and then she has everybody's attention. By using these phrases, it makes students aware of language through strategies that she's just, she's going about asking questions. She's reading the story, but she's not just sitting there reading it. She's engaging with the children. And our ultimate goal is for every student to learn independently. So as they are reading, they will ask these questions. Now, they might not ask them out loud, but it's going to be installed in their brains where they can talk, talk it out. Okay, so I see that this book is going to be about cars. I see that this book is going to be about families. What does the picture tell me? Okay, well, let me sound out this word, and it just helps them. So, language proficiency assessments and literacy. Look at this picture. I just feel that this gives you pictures. Oh my goodness, what phrase am I looking for? A picture is worth a million words. When we work on assessments, we need to make sure we tap both oral language and literacy creating strategies. When blending these languages domains, we can engage students as active listeners, readers, speakers, writers within and across language through a variety of strategies. I like this picture because it represents students working together. Um, I use this as reading buddies. And once you're in a school setting, I find it ideal for maybe a kindergartner to have a third grader be a reading buddy, or even in preschool, having preschool and kindergarten, because some kindergarten kids are already reading. And if they're not, it's a good motivation for them to start sounding out words, 2, 3 words. um, Biscuit is one of my favorite books to start reading to preschoolers and kindergarteners because of the rhyming. Dr. Seuss is one of my um, favorite books too, and children seem to relate. And they're also funny books, and kids like to giggle, and it just makes it where literacy could be something fun. So help students understand and make connections between oral language and literacy, such as through daily oral sharing of literacy related activities or assignments. Let's make this fun. Encourage students to share insight from their reading with each other in pairs or small groups. Explain to children using examples or text to self, text to text, and text to world connections. And for that, I would definitely use a FYI chart for what it is that you know, what it is that we need to find out, how it connects. So provide ample opportunities for students to talk about grade level topics and to write about them in a variety of ways. It could either be little flashcards, um, pictures. Pictures, like I said, are worth more than we know with words. Model for students how to verbalize understanding and questions about reading, and then have students practice and reflect on their strategies. Converse with students about the writing and have students assess each other using agreed upon criteria. So I would have a circle time, and it's okay. So if we hit these points, building their own rubric, and They're going to know what to look for, what to accomplish, because they created it. So everybody will be on the same page. When I saw this, I just thought that this picture tells me that reading strategies and the way that we explain it to kids could be more than just words. Pictures help. So, prediction. What is Snoopy doing here? He's trying to figure out what's going to happen next. So he's trying to look for, okay, what is it that I think that. So giving children these tools will help them when they're trying to write, when they're trying to learn, when they're reading, visualizing. He's reading a fish book, so he's imagining. Okay, well, the fish could either be in the water, the fish could be jumping up, the fish got caught because somebody was fishing, and then we make connections. I have always tried to explain connections, but when I saw this, it's like, we need to make a connection. We need to put it together. But it never even crossed my mind to think that a puzzle, now I can make a connection by saying if we have three puzzle pieces, we need to be making sure they connect. So you want to have this, and this in order for your story to make sense. And I mean, I can still use my fingers and say they need to connect, but showing them the visual of a puzzle, they might understand it a little bit better. Questions, asking those questions. What do I want to say? What do I want to ask? And we need to clarify and make sure that when we are giving our instructions, we need to be very clear. And that way the children can identify main points and then they can summarize. I would almost say that it's a good idea to have children read a chapter and then say, well, give me a reflection. And as we all know, that's kind of like what we're doing right now. We're reading chapters and we're just outlining. That way, it will make it where we can go back and say, okay, so this is what it's talking about. And then we need to evaluate the story and the actions of the characters. So clarify and evaluate kind of goes hand in hand. I would like for you guys to make sure that when we are using the reading strategies for our ELL students, we can also visualize a story in our minds while we're listening or reading and make sure that we explain this to the children, how to identify stories or information. Texts are constructed around one or more key uses. Become familiar with analyzing performance and narrative text. Understand the language comparison, the cause and effect. Let's move on to the next slide. So using language in the digital world, which is what we're currently doing, correct? So I just like this module that talks about the functions, the critical thinking, how we need to collaborate, effective communication, and how we need to just be creative. What can we do as educators to help ELL students overcome challenges when most of the resources are in English? So then this just means that we have to go that extra mile and think about, okay, so maybe I can Zoom with them and have them all ask questions. Tell the students, okay, we're going to be Zooming, so if you have any questions, please come ready with some questions. We can also find software that will be easy for them to use. Messages with pictures. Pictures. I've been saying this since we started. Pictures just are so helpful because even when you don't understand something, you kind of look at the picture and it's like, okay, you can either go this way or that way, but it opens it up where I can ask a question if there's something that I don't understand. Explore the internet with a purpose. So if I'm going to have them go into a website, I should probably research it before I have them go and start, downloading. Make sure that the pop-ups that will pop out is something that won't confuse them. Um, so, what are your thoughts on multiliteracies? You can find more information on page 110, and it will also give you more sample examples. So, the difference between genres and text types. Genre types are generally more communication based and responsive to social intent. So we use that term in reference to language learning across all disciplines. Text types is when we are referring to content based learning, generally in the discipline of language arts, which everything goes together. So, what are your thoughts on chapter 4? So, some reactions and reflections. So, I would like for everybody to, I will be posting this because out of these 4 questions, I would like for you to answer 2 of them. So, let's reflect on the information that this chapter has given us by answering 2 of the following questions. So, this will be part of the assignment for this chapter. And thank you for listening. And I hope you got as much information as I did from this chapter. Have a great day. Bye.